Hello and welcome, everyone. Just give us one moment to set up our cameras, and then we're going to get started with today's episode of Cooking Connected. All right. Hello and welcome again. Thanks for joining us for this episode of Cooking Connected. My name is Sajwa, and I'm one of the Cooking Matters program coordinators, and I'm here today with Jordan. Say hi, Jordan.
Hi, everyone.
And our special guest, Julia. Say hi, Julia.
Hello.
Julia is a dietetic nutrition student, and she's going to be doing the nutrition education today for our Cooking Connected episode. So, let me just do a quick recap of a normal Cooking Matters class before we get started with the recipe. A normal Cooking Matters class is a 6-week nutrition-based cooking class that meets once a week for 2 hours. Classes feature a culinary instructor and a nutrition educator. So that's going to be Jordan, the chef, and then Julia, our educator. And they work together to guide the class through a cooking demonstration and a nutrition lesson. As always, we are working to connect with the community over a delicious and healthy meal, practice a new recipe together, and share tips for eating healthy on a budget. Now, before we get started, I do want to review our survey. I am going to go ahead and post the link to the survey as well as the survey code in the live chat right on your screen, as well as in the description box of this video. So check that out. And let me make sure we're in view again. Yikes. Here we go. Today's survey code is E097 208. And again, that's our survey code for today's episode of Cooking Connected, the fish taco recipe. So I already kind of spoiled it, but we did do a poll on Facebook, and the winner of the poll was fish tacos. So that's the recipe we're going to be doing today. And now with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and pass the baton on to Jordan.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Thanks for joining us. If this is your first time with us, thank you for joining us. We're excited you're all here today. So as Sajwa was mentioning, we are making fish tacos today. Just a simple fish taco recipe. We also decided to add a tzatziki sauce to this recipe as well. So a tzatziki is a cucumber and Greek yogurt based sauce. It goes really good on fish tacos, and yeah, I think we'll all really enjoy that. So with that, let's go ahead and get started with the tzatziki right away. So I'd like to first off thank, it's cookieandkate.com for providing this recipe for us. So go check out their website if you want the complete recipe. Also find the recipes in the description box or on Facebook as well. So the first step, of course, before we get cooking, we always wash our hands. It's always going to be our first step. So 20 seconds getting all surfaces of our hands. You can sing the ABCs if you're working with kids in the kitchen today. Maybe singing happy birthday twice, just making sure we're getting our hands nice and clean. So I washed my hands today. And also sanitizing our countertops. So you'll see in the chef's view here, I do have my countertops sanitized already. Another important step, we're practicing food safety. We don't want to get sick from our food, so that's the reason we're doing this. Finally, another term that we always use and we've used in a lot of our other videos is called mise en place. And that just means that we've got all of our ingredients set out. You can see here I've got my knives and my cutting board and some of my ingredients laid out before me. This just makes things a lot easier and goes a lot quicker when you're starting to cook recipes. So I've got my mise en place, my hands are washed, my vegetables have been rinsed already. Please don't forget that step either. So we are good to go. I'm just gonna go ahead and switch my view so you guys can see what I'm doing here. All right. So like I said, we're going to go ahead and start with the tzatziki sauce. So with the tzatziki, we're going to go ahead and we're going to grate a cucumber. And I actually decrease this recipe just a little bit because I don't need that much tzatziki. But the first thing I'm going to do, I am going to cut off the ends of these just to make it a little easier for me. You don't have to do this step, but I like to. And then I am going to use a box grater today to go ahead and grate my cucumber. As always, when we are grating cucumber or anything with the box grater, please be careful of your hands. I have scraped my fingers with the box grater a billion times and scraped my knuckles. It's really not fun. So just be careful when you're doing this.
One of the things that I really love about this recipe is that so many vegetables in it, and there's so many good vitamins and minerals in vegetables that you can keep them raw, like a lot of the vegetables that we're doing for cooking so far. They're also really good.
Sorry to interrupt. We're having a little trouble hearing you over Jordan's furious grating.
Sorry, Julia.
That's okay.
Awesome. All right, guys, so we don't need too much today. But this is a really moist vegetable, obviously. So we are going to have to wring out some of the moisture that is in this. So I'm just going to go ahead and take this, put it directly in my bowl. And then I'm going to go ahead and wring this out in the sink. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to take a handful and I'm just going to squeeze it and then make sure all that moisture is out of there. We just don't want our tzatziki sauce to be, too moist. Otherwise, it's going to not really come together very well. So while I'm doing that, now, Julia, they could probably hear you a little bit better. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. I didn't realize quite how loud it was. So what I was saying about the cucumber, there's tons of fresh vegetables in this recipe, and there's such good sources of vitamins and minerals. It's even more beneficial if you can keep them raw, like we're going to do with some of the toppings for this. Cooked vegetables are also still really great, but the raw ones just pack a little bit more of a punch with the vitamins and minerals. There's also in all the vegetables that we have and in the tortillas. Jordan's using whole grain tortillas today, so there's a lot of good fiber in that. That's something that a lot of people don't get enough of, but when we're increasing the fiber, we have to remember to increase the water too, just so that we can keep everything moving.
That's right. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and put our grated cucumber, and I did take out some of that moisture. Another thing you can actually do is you can take out the middle of the cucumber a little bit. So you can cut it in half and cut out these seeds. There's a lot of moisture in there. I decided not to do that today because I like to use all of it, just keep all that fiber that Julia's talking about that we need. So, all right, so we went ahead and we squeezed out some of that moisture. And then what we're going to go ahead and do is add a Greek yogurt. So I did leave my dairy in the fridge for as long as possible. So we are just working with a Greek plain yogurt today. And I'm going to put a half a cup of this into my mixture. Well, I guess just my cucumber so far. It's not quite a mixture quite yet. Greek yogurt is a really great choice. Oh, and there is a little bit on top. Don't forget about that. It's pretty hard not to, or it's pretty hard to forget that one. All right. So Greek yogurt, a lot of times when I'm making fish tacos for my family, we use sour cream on them. We really like sour cream, but yogurt is a really great alternative. It's got a lot of protein in it and a little less calories. So this is a great way to, it still kind of tastes like sour cream as well. This is a really great alternative for that. And also sour cream, sometimes you can't really get small quantities of sour cream. You can with these little yogurts here. So I'm just gonna go ahead, add my yogurt in.
I have a question in the comments here. Are you using fat-free yogurt today?
Let's see here. So today, yes, I am using a fat-free yogurt, 0% milk fat. So there are whole milk yogurts that you can buy. So, it really depends on your preference, but I would encourage you to try a lower fat yogurt. It still tastes really good, so that would be a really great choice. All right, so next we're gonna mix in some olive oil, herbs, lemon juice, garlic, and then we're gonna add some salt to the bowl as well. So we need to add some olive oil. Today I don't have olive oil, as always. I'm using a grape seed. This is just a little bit cheaper, and it still has a lot of good benefits. Of course, you can use olive oil or a canola as well. Next, we're going to add our herbs. So today we are using a dill. So I'm using dried dill. The recipe actually does call for fresh herbs. Now, I do want to point out when you're using fresh herbs, or you're going to be substituting dried for your fresh herbs, it's actually a little bit different because your dried herbs are going to be a little more concentrated. So you don't need to use as much. So the actual ratio for that, you would use for 1 tablespoon of fresh herbs, you would only use 1 teaspoon of dried herbs. So you could still use your dried herbs, just use a little bit less. And this recipe is kind of nice because I don't really need to measure out too much. I'm gonna taste this, and if I need to add more dill later, I will, or maybe more garlic, but love that dill. So we're gonna go ahead and add that in. Some lemon juice, and just a tablespoon. I am using just this lemon juice that's in the bottle right now. You can, of course, use fresh. It would probably taste a little bit better with fresh. We always buy this just because it is more shelf stable, and we don't use lemon juice that often, so. All right. Now I'm gonna go ahead and just mix this up really well. So this is a really great topping for fish tacos. You're actually gonna let this rest for a little while. Let's see here. Make sure I got everything. I am just gonna add a pinch of salt as well. I just realized I forgot my garlic, so we're gonna go ahead and just leave that out for now. I will go ahead and add that a little bit later, but you can add garlic to this recipe and then, just give it a taste, see what you like. So we're just gonna let this rest, and this is what a tzatziki will kind of look like that you can add to a topping on your fish taco. You can use more of each ingredient. As I said, just give it a try, see what you think, and adjust from there. So that is the tzatziki sauce. Again, thank you to cookieandkate.com for that recipe. Next, let's move on to our fish tacos. So the reason that we did it in this order is we are, of course, working with fish today. So we need to be really mindful of our food safety. We don't want to be mixing, fish juice with all of our vegetables. So we're going to go ahead and prep our vegetables for toppings first, and then we're going to go ahead and work with our fish. So today we do have some cabbage here. The recipe calls for both a purple cabbage as well as a green cabbage. I do not use cabbage that often, so I'm just going to go ahead and use the purple cabbage, and then instead I'm going to be working with, I had some collard greens left over, so I'm going to be using some collard greens as well as some kale for a topping. So, don't be afraid to adjust the toppings as well to what you like. So, as I mentioned earlier, all of my vegetables have been rinsed. I went ahead and cut this in half, and then there's just a little stem down here. This part, we always cut out just because it's really, it's kind of bitter and it's hard. So we don't like to add this part in. So I'm just gonna keep that off to the side. And cabbage is actually something that you can use in a broth bag. So if you are making a broth bag, I would encourage you to not add too much cabbage because it will take on a different taste, but you can add a little bit in there just so you're not wasting any scraps. So just went ahead and cut that off. And of course, as always, we are practicing our knife safety. I did forget to mention this. As with our other videos, the proper way to hold a knife is to actually pinch the blade and then wrap your fingers around. So I'm always being mindful of that. But like I said, I just went ahead and chopped off some sections, and then I'm just gonna cut down.
Yeah, and I was gonna say with the vegetables that you're substituting, it's actually a really good way to, again, get more vitamins and minerals in your diet. Anything with bright colors, it's an indication that there's a lot of healthy benefits to that food. So the dark leafy greens instead of the green cabbage will have a lot more goodness in them. There's more iron in them and some more vitamin A, stuff like that we all need.
Absolutely. So like we said, just feel free to adjust And like Julia was saying, these do add a lot more vitamins. This is actually just what I had on hand. Like I said, we don't use cabbage that much, usually only for our fish tacos. So feel free to get something else that maybe your family likes a little bit more. I know greens are starting to be harvested now, so maybe at the farmer's market you can pick up some greens as well. So with my collard greens, I always like to take out the stem. You can use this part. I just find it a little uncomfortable to eat. It's just kind of dense. So I'm going to go ahead and take that out. So I'm just literally pinching it off of the stem here. All right. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to roll it up really quick. And then I'm just going to quickly chop this. So be mindful that these are toppings. You know, you may not want big long strips of greens. Think about shredded lettuce. Always be thinking about what you're using your ingredients for. For instance, you probably wouldn't want a huge chunk of cabbage, so just cutting that a little bit smaller. But of course, again, that's up to your preference. And finally, let's go ahead and cut up our tomato. We're just going to dice this. So with tomatoes, I always like to use serrated knives just because they're a little bit easier for me to use. Sometimes if you don't have a very sharp knife, it's difficult to cut through tomatoes. I think I just sharpened this knife, so it should work pretty well. But if my knife is a little bit duller, it probably wouldn't work as well. So a serrated knife is a good option for tomatoes. But I did, like I said, just sharpen, so.
Yeah, you can kind of sometimes just end up squishing the tomato with a dull knife.
Yeah, exactly. Always remember, a dull knife is a dangerous knife, just because you're pushing down so hard to try to get through, that if you do end up cutting your fingers, you're going to really hurt yourself with that. So we're always making sure our knives are sharp and we're using proper knife safety techniques, and of course using the claw. So we are using our hands and just kind of guarding our fingertips there. So just go ahead and move your fingers back when you're cutting. So I'm just going to quickly dice this, and I do like bigger chunks of tomatoes on my tacos. Can anybody in the audience think of any ingredients that they might want to add on for toppings? These are pretty traditional, I feel like, for fish tacos.
Yeah, we have one viewer here who mentioned eating the rainbow. So of course, any other ways that you can add extra color to your meal, that's an excellent way to get more nutrients. I think it would be fun to add maybe some red onion. I really like onion myself. I think that would be nice in a taco. I think spinach is an option. That would be good. A nice dark leafy veg like that. Any other thoughts out there in the chat?
I've even done shredded carrots on stuff like that. You know, box
Yeah.
grater with carrot makes nice little shreds.
Mhm.
Not hard to chew. It's not like biting into a full carrot, and you get all the goodness of a carrot too.
I love the idea of carrots. And sometimes if you have some really good fresh ones, maybe from the farmer's market, they can even add a little sweet element to it. Oh, that would be so nice.
So now we're just going to start working with our fish, and I am moving my vegetables out of the way because, as I said earlier, we really don't want to deal with any cross-contamination here. So today I am actually working with a tilapia, and you know, you can work with a lot of different types of fish, but this is, like I said, just something that I had on hand. Our family does a lot of fishing, so I have actually made fish tacos with trout, or you know, you can use a lot of other different type of fish. Northern, I've done it, but typically you use just a white fish that has a mild flavor. So I'm gonna go ahead and just cut the tilapia into 1-inch pieces, and I've done that with most of my tilapia here, but just real quick, I'm gonna cut this, and then we're gonna go
Another
ahead
good thing
and
about whitefish like tilapia or trout or anything like that, it's very low in saturated fat, but you still get a lot of good high quality protein.
Yes, fish is a really great option. I think you're supposed to eat it once a week. Is that right, Julia?
Yep, that's what some people recommend to do 1 or 2 times a week with fish. And even in fattier fish like salmon, that's kind of the good fat as opposed to like beef has a lot of the saturated fat, which is not the greatest. You kind of want to minimize that in your diet.
All right, so let's go ahead. We're actually going to start mixing all of our stuff into our fish now. So we've got all of our fish cut up into 1-inch pieces, and we are going to add some oil. So just a tablespoon of oil. Now again, I'm using the grape seed. We're going to add some lemon juice, so 2 tablespoons of lemon juice. Again, if you want to use fresh, I would encourage you to do so. Like I said, this is just a little bit more shelf stable for my family. We don't use lemons a lot. We use a lot of limes, but not a lot of lemons. But that might be something that would be good in this recipe, is to substitute some lime juice.
Yeah, I was actually gonna note one of the viewers here mentioned that some cilantro and lime would work really well with this recipe, and I agree. I really love the flavor that lime adds to something fresh like a fish taco.
And then the recipe also calls for you to use half a package of taco seasoning. So you can buy a pre-packaged taco seasoning, but I actually made my own today. When you make your own, you can control the sodium that's in there, and you can actually change the spices up a little bit, adding different quantities. Maybe you don't like as much chili powder. You can decrease that, or cumin. So in here, we have chili powder, we have garlic powder, we have onion powder, just kind of hiding under the salt there. We have crushed red pepper, we have oregano, paprika, a lot of cumin, and then we have salt and pepper. So there are a lot of different seasonings in here, but if you make your own, you can make this ahead of time and just have it ready. So when you make tacos, you have this ready. I'm just gonna make sure that my fish is well coated. This might be a little much for seasonings, but we just wanna make sure everything is well coated. So I'm gonna go ahead and stir that in real quick.
Yeah, and in addition to being able to control the amount of sodium in there, it can also be a more economical way to do it too. If you buy seasonings in bulk, you can get the bags of them at Cub Foods or Co-op, stuff like that, and it's a lot cheaper to make your own mix and just keep it on hand in the cupboard for whenever you need it.
Yes, the more seasonings you buy, it's kind of nice to have more seasonings on hand. Seasoning your food with these spices is a lot better option than seasoning with salt. So you'll have more seasonings on hand to try with other foods. So I am using a lot of my seasoning right now, which is fine with me because I like this recipe a little bit on the spicy side. So, and of course you can always add other seasonings to this. So for instance, if you do like it a little spicier, maybe adding more crushed red pepper, more cayenne, would be really great. All right, so we've got our fish well coated. Next, we're gonna go ahead and over a medium-high heat, we're just gonna go ahead and cook this for a little while. So make sure everything's good to go there. Awesome.
Who's Jordan?
Yep. Still got me here?
Yep, there you are.
Okay. All right, so we're just gonna go ahead and cook this really quick. I am gonna add just a tiny bit of oil, just in case. You probably don't need it, but just to be on the safe side.
Hey Jordan, what kind of oil will you be using today?
Today I'm using a grape seed again.
Okay.
I always like that one. We've talked about this in a few other videos, but grapeseed oil has a higher smoking point. So basically what that means is that it can be heated to a higher temperature than certain oils. So for instance, olive oil will start to burn at a certain temperature. But grapeseed oil, of course, will burn as well, but it's a little bit higher of a temperature that it'll start to smoke. That's why they call it a smoke point. All right.
I have one viewer here who mentioned chipotle pepper as a really great seasoning to buy in bulk. I know that at Cooking Matters, we love buying Italian seasoning in bulk. We use that in a lot of our recipes, garlic powder, onion powder, but I definitely think some chipotle pepper would be really fun in this kind of recipe.
Absolutely. I'm gonna have to give that a try. I actually have some chipotle peppers in my freezer right now, so a good way to use them.
And I just also wanted to ask, we have a viewer who's asking, how does like the grapeseed oil, how does that compare to avocado oil?
I'm not exactly sure where it does fall on the spectrum. I do think it actually is a little bit lower than grapeseed oil. I don't quote me on that. That's something I'll have to look up and get back to you with. But grapeseed oil has a little bit of a milder flavor. Avocado oil will have a little bit more flavor than grapeseed oil does, but they're both really good choices.
I just pulled up a smoke point chart for this viewer here, and what I'm seeing here is from like lower to higher. The lowest I see is extra virgin olive oil, then coconut oil, sesame oil, and then a little bit higher up we see avocado oil, and grapeseed oil is above that. So you're right. Grapeseed oil does have a higher smoke point than avocado oil. Avocado oil is going to be higher than like a coconut oil, and a coconut oil is going to be a little bit higher than an extra virgin olive oil.
But of course, as always, we like to say that, use what you like in your kitchen, and whatever your preference is. These are all really great choices. They've got great fats. So, if you like olive oil, feel free to use it. Maybe you'll like grapeseed oil. Maybe this is something that you can experiment with. So we're just cooking away. Our fish will cook until it flakes easily. The temperature to be cooked to is 145 degrees, or until the fish is opaque and flakes easily. So a lot of times, especially like when I'm cooking salmon, I'll notice that it will get done a little bit before it reaches temperature. But just, making sure that it is cooked to the proper temperature, and it's starting to flake. And you'll see here, my fish is starting to flake a little bit, which is awesome. I'm gonna let it cook a little bit longer. I feel like it's kind of hard to tell with seasonings when it's done. So.
Definitely see all the flavor that's gonna have though.
Yes.
Hey Jordan, would you mind adjusting your not chest view camera so that we can see a little bit? There we go. That's perfect. So we can see what's going on in that skillet, because after getting that peek, I want to know what's going on over there. That looks so good.
All right. So as always, I like to clean as I go. So we'll just pick up a little bit here. And we'll just let that cook for a little while. Again, making sure that it's cooking the proper temperature. I do have a little bit of extra taco seasoning today, so I will save that for the next time I make tacos.
So then we were talking about protein a little bit earlier, and fish is a really good way to get protein. It's low in fat, which is going to be really important if you've got high cholesterol, anything like that. Try and kind of keep that in lean meat, like fish or chicken, is really good for that. And maybe even sometimes just substituting a little bit. So maybe instead of beef tacos that you're used to, you could try a recipe like this with fish instead. Take things up a little bit.
All right, so we're getting close to done here. And I will quickly grab my meat thermometer so I can show you guys how to temp this.
Oh, I'm so glad that we're going to be temping a fish. Usually we've done it with chicken. I think we've done an egg dish before, but this will be our first time temping a fish. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Oh, that looks so good, Jordan. I can't wait to see what it looks like all together.
And you'll see here in the chef's view, it is starting to flake quite a bit. So we do know that it's getting close to done. I did just want to mention when we are temping, our meat thermometer here does have a little dimple. And it's just right there. I don't know if you guys can see it. But always making sure that you are inserting the meat thermometer up to that dimple. And then you're not sticking it on the pan because then you will get a false read. So making sure that you're temping everything properly. With something small like this, I'm actually going to take chunks, and it is really flaking now, so we know it's getting done.
That's a good trick to thread it on there like that.
Yes. So when you're working with like even like a chicken, yeah, see, it's definitely done because I can't even get it on the meat thermometer. So yes, I'll try to show you guys. Right about there. So we know it's definitely done. It's above 145, so that is great. We're going to go ahead and take it off the heat. When you're working with like a chicken that has already been cut up, you would use the same technique, just stacking them on top of each other, and that is the proper way to temp that. Always make sure you're grabbing the biggest chunks, because if you know that the biggest chunks are done, you know that the smaller chunks are going to be done too. All right, so let's get started building our tacos. So we are using a whole wheat tortilla today. The recipe calls for corn tortillas. If you like those, go ahead and use those. I had whole wheat on hand, so that's what I'm going to use today. Minneapolis, Minnesota actually has a really great corn tortillas. We have a company that makes them here. Just a little plug there, but they are awesome tortillas, so I'd encourage you to give those a try if you ever get a chance. All right. And as I said earlier, this tilapia worked really well for these fish tacos, but you can use a lot of different other fish. As I said, I used northern before, even walleye. We usually don't use walleye for fish tacos because I really love walleye, but
Walleye is one of those that's good to eat kind of plain.
yeah. Add our tomatoes here. All right, so then we have our collard greens, a little bit of collard greens, and some kale as well. Adding a little bit more nutrient-dense food in. And of course, we are eating the rainbow today, so we are going to add some purple cabbage.
Jordan, what is the brand of the corn tortillas you were talking about?
Oh, I think it's La Perla.
Yep, that's correct. It's La Perla. Mm-hmm.
They make some amazing corn tortillas.
And it's local.
And it's local, that's right. I would encourage you to heat up your tortillas. That really makes this recipe pop when you have those nice warm tortillas. So especially those homemade corn tortillas. And last but certainly not least, our tzatziki sauce. This is really just sets off the taco. So you can make the fish tacos without them, but I would definitely encourage you to try that sauce. And of course, serving on the side, a little bit of lime juice. Just add to the top. And that is our fish tacos. This one actually isn't a Cooking Matters recipe. This one was from the Nutrition Education and Obesity Prevention branch in the California Department of Health. So thank you guys for that recipe. It is awesome. This one is actually on the Cooking Matters app, which you can find in the App Store as well. So, all right, guys. So that is our fish tacos today. Does anybody have any questions?
Just wondering when we can come over to eat. I mean, wow, if we can have a social distancing taco night. That looks so good, Jordan.
Yes, this is a great recipe. I'd encourage you guys to try it. It also works really well with shrimp.
I was gonna say I could definitely see that working with some shrimp.
Yeah.
So thank you everyone for joining us today for this episode of Cooking Connected. We appreciate all of the conversation in the chat today, all of the wonderful questions. You guys, you're amazing. Check out our Facebook page. We'll be doing another poll on Friday to decide a little bit about what other recipes we should be doing in the future. We're getting hung up, guys. We need some more suggestions. So we appreciate that. And again, with the surveys, I'm back with it. We're hoping you guys would take our survey for us so that we can continue doing this work and continuing to grow as we make more videos like this. Let me make sure that's in view. Our survey code for this episode of Cooking Connected is E0972208. And then that, again, that's for this week's episode of Cooking Connected, the fish tacos. All right, everyone, thanks for joining us. And special thanks to Julia. We really appreciate you joining us. You had some awesome nutrition tips for us today. So we'll be looking forward to more videos with you. All right, with that being said, have a great day, everyone. Bye.
Bye, everyone.